Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Holon Battle Frontier. We're here for Season 11. Yep, the HBF has kicked back up again, and I am back in here and ready to rumble. Here's to hoping I actually record more than 2 weeks worth of games for this league this time. I definitely screwed it up last season, but I'm hoping to get back into the swing of this because this is generally really fun. And it seems I've got the exact same Week 1 opponent as my most recent HBF season, Johnpaul and the Miami Mimikyus. Most of the editing from the previous time I tried to do this is a lot of the reason why I just lost motivation earlier. So, we're going to make this infinitely easier on myself and do this the easier way. Let's jump right into the matchup. I haven't really made a draft analysis for my HBF roster, and I don't think I'm going to. But it's relatively easy to see just by looking at it. I am playing my first foray into Insurgence Stall. It's not really an archetype that sees a lot of use, not an archetype that sees a lot of success. Insurgence has some fantastic bulk-centric options, but also has plenty of offensive powerhouses to contest an archetype such as this. Stall is pretty difficult to make work in draft, especially Insurgence draft, with much of its power creep. So we're going to see if this works in the future, but I think I can pull it off. Johnpaul's team is built on taking things at a much faster pace than my roster is. We've got Delta Arcanine, the Sneasler Tapu Koko engine, some fantastic hazard guys down here, and some potential sweepers in the form of Superior and Galarian Moltres. These other three, mostly just backup options. But because of that backup options, I did start realizing a couple of things. Between Koko, Superior, Cryogonal, and Volbeat, these are 4 Pokemon that either don't want to show up to the game due to their relative lack of power and use, or don't really want to use removal in Tapu Koko's case, and Superior's more specifically. Superior has a couple of problems trying to tango through Celesteela and Slitherwing, and Delmise, Cofagrigus, the Unawaremon, Blissey. Just so many problems for Superior. Cryogonal just gets completely neutered by Blissey and doesn't even necessarily beat most of my hazard setters, one of which is the Blissey. I'm realizing, for those who are new to Insurgence, I have not gone over the Insurgence Pokemon. Allow me to remedy this. We start with my first, Mega Flygon. 120 base speed, bug dragon typing with the new ability Amplifier, which is punk rock for cowards. It's a slightly lower boost, and you don't get a reduction to incoming sound moves. With the power of Boom Burst, Bug Buzz, and Insurgence's new move Dracon Voice, 105 base power, 80% accuracy, special dragon-type attack with no secondary effect, notably a sound move, so boosted by Mega Flygon's Amplifier ability. 120 special attack is Flygon's claim to fame, just blaring its sound moves in every direction with no regard for substitutes. Next up, we've got Delta Tangrowth. Ground and fighting with the stat lines of a Tangrowth, that is to say, 100 HP, 125 defense, 50 special defense, a whole lot of other stats that I barely remember nor care about. We've got ability options of Dry Skin and Rough Skin, as well as continued access to Synthesis, but Delta Tangrowth breaks the mold with some powerful ground, fighting, and fire-type coverage options in Earthquake, Overheat, Body Press is a massive one. Stab Body Press off 125 base defense. Big money. We've got entry hazards to click, we've got Synthesis to heal. Fantastic suite of options. Delta Grottle, my most precious boy. Got the stat line of a Grottle, a water ground with Water Absorb, utilizing Recover or Shore Up as its healing move of choice. Easy Stealth Rock, Earthquake, Scald, Liquidation, even got Dragon Tail if you really want to be cheeky. Delta Cofagrigus, Poison and Steel. Looks like a gas can. Very strange like that. And the abilities Aftermath and Wonder Skin. I think it has Infiltrator, but I don't think that's ever going to be used. Body Press is a big part of things. It's mostly got the same move pool as a Cofagrigus after that, just with some poison and steel type moves. Pokemon Insurgence does have a new move called Corrode, which is freeze dry but poison edition. Whoop, sorry there. Freeze dry for poison. Freeze dry with poison typing, no percent poison rate like freeze dry has a percent freeze rate, 70 base power, special, yada yada yada. Doesn't really see a whole lot of use on Delta Coffagrigus because you just hit them with body press or fire moves. And my opponent's steel is a Bronzong, which might not be a steel for long. On the opposing side, Delta Arcanine, normal dragon, no healing move like base form Arcanine, but we are working with Intimidate and Multiscale as abilities, but far more importantly, this is the OU Extreme Killer. We've got Swords Dance, we've got Extreme Speed, we got a couple of coverage options. No recovery move, as previously mentioned, like Arceus likes to use in Ubers, and is frequently beholden to heavy-duty boots due to wanting to preserve its multiscale, but still a terror to most offensive rosters, and a non-factor to most defensive rosters. We'll get into that. Delta Registeel. Got the stat line of a Registeel, a pure fire with the abilities Flame Body and Foundry. Foundry converts rock-type attacks into fire-type attacks and gives them a 20% damage bonus. How does this interact with Stealth Rock, you might ask? Well, dear viewer, it turns the rocks into coals. Hot Coals is a new hazard for Pokemon Insurgence specific to the Foundry Pokemon. It's Stealth Rock that cares about your matchup against fire types. So it will deal 25% to my Celesteela and my Slitherwing, but it will deal reduced damage to my Skeledirge. I have a little bit of a fire weakness problem here, but we'll get over it. This is one of only 2 Stealth Colesmons in existence. The other one didn't get drafted in my division. Delta Torterra, the grown-up version of my Delta Grottle. Pretty much the same notes here. Water Ground with Water Absorb. Except this one also has spikes. Notably, neither of these two carry Flip Turn. And that's the extent of the Insurgence Pokemon here. We've really gone over the matchup. My opponent's team is relatively lacking in both removal and power. So I think the stall game plan is a fantastic way to grind them out. Now, let's take a quick look at the prep. We start with Mega Flygon. We got Boom Burst, Flamethrower, Giga Drain, Agility. Giga Drain is here just to hit Delta Torterra because I don't want to deal with that mon more than I have to. It's frankly very annoying and I don't want to get spike stacked. Flamethrower, there's a Bronzong here. Boom Burst, that hits everybody else. We're using Boom Burst as the base attack. Agility is primarily here just to speed tie with Sneasler. If I need to go for an Agility, I will. Max speed and timid means I can speed tie the Sneasler. 144 defense is specifically for this Delta Arcanine. After a Swords Dance, my Mega Flygon will survive a 1 Extreme Speed after switching in on Stealth Rock in its base form, because the base form is resistant to rock. The Mega form, being a bug, is weak to it. That's part of the problem. Next up is Mew, with Heavy Duty Boots. This is what I like to call a plug Mew. It is not actually built around being its own Pokemon. It's here to patch up whatever holes I have over the rest of the roster. In this case, I knew I wanted a Spiker. I knew I wanted something to taunt. This Nightshade is a bit of a problem. I mentioned earlier, after proofreading this paste one more time, that's when I really got the Flygon defense investment down. What I forgot is that Nightshade is not the best kind of this attack here. This should have been Seismic Toss. I am dealing with a very powerful normal here. The reason I didn't have Seismic Toss originally is so that I didn't clank into Flame Body from Delta Registeel. But a Flame Body burn would actually be a good thing so that my Mew doesn't get toxicked. I really goofed this one up, but I figured, I would just taunt on the Toxics and on Delta Registeel's recovers. By the way, did I mention Delta Registeel gets recover? I don't think I did. So we've got a hazard stacking Mew to really try to attack the relative lack of removal here. Next up is Celesteela, and holy moly, this guy has no attacks. I didn't even pack Heavy Slam here. What are you doing, S? What are you even trying to do? This is the Tapu Koko matchup. Why do we have a no-attack Celesteela? What are you even trying to block? The answer is these 3 goobers, the 3 defensive idiots. I'd rather not have to deal with any of them for longer than I have to. The combination of Leech Seed and Toxic, or just trying to seed the Bronzong, but primarily these 2 goobers, is the focus of Celesteela. Rest was a move I waffled about for a while, potentially dropping for Heavy Slam, but I figured Rest was going to be necessary if I wanted to 1v1 the Registeel long term, particularly after blocking it. Those lava plumes might hurt a fair bit. In retrospect, this could have just been Heavy Slam. I did not need to rest off the Registeel's lava plumes because I could just seed it and the Leech Seed recovery would go a long enough way. Blissey is one of my Terra Captains. It's my second Bootsmon, and if you look a little bit farther down, you'll notice I have 3. This is because I'm not bringing my removal, and I don't want to deal with potentially 3 different hazards, for most of my guys anyway. Soft-Boiled and Toxic and Seismic Toss are generic Blissey options, just to hit things, spread status, make some game progress. But Blissey is also packing the Block Spice, because these goobers really have to get out of here. You'll notice my Terra Captains are Blissey and Skeledirge. They both have Terra types here, which are really focused around one simple thing. Let's not lose to Sneasler. My physical options for Sneasler are present in multitudes. Mew is trying to take it on, Skeledirge is trying to take it on, and Blissey's got a Ghost Terra to potentially help with Sneasler's case. Ghost Terra also means my Blissey can beat up on Bronzong by not having to worry about potentially boosted body presses. Because I am playing very slow and very bulky, Bronzong is going to have ample opportunity to body press. You'll notice I brought 2 super effective moves to hit Bronzong. My next best ways of damaging it are Nightshade and Seismic Toss with static damage that are probably going to be for 4-hit KOs. I do not expect to be taking out high-health Bronzongs very easily, especially because Skeledirge is on Sneasler duty. So that's going to be a bit of a problem. Boosted Iron Defense and boosting with Iron Defense and trying to body press my roster is an angle I do not want to deal with. Fifth up is Delta Grottle. We've got Shore Up, Stealth Rock, Earthquake, Dragon Tail. It's a water ground, so what exactly are we trying to tango with? Mostly Tapu Koko. Tapu Koko's annoying. Doesn't Tapu Koko get Grass Knot? I hear you asking. Yes, it does get Grass Knot. But I need someone to take these Volt Switches. Blissey isn't always going to be around in order to do that, and my ground fighting with 50 special defense? Yeah, no, that's not happening. So Grottle's going to have to be taking care of that. Grottle can kick out Stealth Rock. Grottle's got great use with Dragon Tail. And the actual secret reason that Delta Grottle is here is that Grottle is on Moltres duty. Setup sweepers are going to be a problem for me. Yes, I have an unaware Pokemon, but that's not always going to be enough if I need that unaware guy to perform some certain defensive use. In this case, Skeledirge is unquestionably on Sneasler duty. So Grottle, being my backup option for Moltres, because Blissey isn't really hurting Moltres very much, is very helpful. Having Dragon Tail means I can just get the Moltres out when I need to. I've got the bulk to live even a +2 Life Orb boosted Hurricane. It's not great, but the core of my roster is very capable of tangoing with my opponent's stuff. So Grottle is kind of just my 6th best Pokemon and is showing up to this game because he just wants to. Speaking of Pokemon that I really want in this game, Skeledirge. Skeledirge is my best guy. Skeledirge is the reason I'm not losing to these top 2. Arcanine's boosted Earthquakes are just going to bounce off of Unaware, and Sneasler's best option is going for Throat Chops and trying to poison me with Dire Claw or Poison Touch. This set originally had Substitute in the 4th slot, but after doing 1 mock of the game and getting Throat Chopped, I realized, oh, Throat Chop has a secondary effect. Torch Song and Alluring Voice, my moves for Generic Power and Delta Arcanine, respectively, are both sound. I could not hit Sneasler with my Skeledirge in my mock battle. So Substitute turned into Earth Power, and then I immediately called myself fine. A Terra type of Poison is mostly in case I need to not Terra Blissey, and I need Skeledirge to no longer be weak to Throat Chop, or be able to take Poisoning. I did not expect this to come up. Blissey is on Terra duty for this game. That's the prep. I've already been talking for a while. Let's get into the actual battle. Here we're looking at team preview. I had expected relatively 7 Pokemon to be able to show up to this game. These front 6 and Bronzong. So a lot of my plans were going to be built around which of these front 7 didn't show up. In this case, it's Moltres. I do not have to deal with Galarian Moltres. I do not have to deal with Nasty Plot boosted Dark Pulses cleaving through my Terra Ghost Blissey. So I breathed a bit of a sigh of relief about that. Especially because it's just generically hard for me to deal with outside of Blissey and Grotle. This means because Grotle's primary target of Moltres is no longer here, Grotle is much less useful to me generically. It's not hitting Bronzong at all, it's probably getting walloped by Koko, it's not staying in on either of these goobers unless it absolutely has to. Brawling with its evolved form is going to be weird at best, and while it does beat Regirock fairly handily, it's also getting poisoned on the way out, and I'd like to prevent that if I can at all. But we're playing stall, so this is going to take a little bit of a while. So let's just kick things right off. I lead with Mew, because I want my hazards, and I want them now. They go for Bronzong. Terra Steel is the move from the Bronzong, removing its dark weakness, I guess. I don't actually know. I taunt it, and Toxic is shown. Good thing I taunted. I did not want my Mew status this early. But now here's Un Coco Loco. Electric Surge comes out, as expected, and I'm getting my spikes. I thought I would be sitting on Bronzong, but turns out I'm not. Nature's Madness immediately out from Tapu Koko. Mew's physical bulk isn't really super relevant for me, so I figured I would just start stalling out electric terrain turns, see if I can make something work, maybe get up my third spike while I'm here. Finally pivoting into Delta Grotle on a turn where I think they're going to click Thunderbolt, and we get there. Nice. I find myself probably able to take a Grass Knot because I want my rocks, and I don't think it's going to stay in. Turns out it actually does. Blissey immediately shows up on the following Nature's Madness, taking me down to half health. I didn't really respect Nature's Madness Tapu Koko a whole bunch in prep, so a lot of my mons have an even amount of hit points. Registeel comes in on Blissey, and I'm ecstatic, because now it's time to unleash the block strategy. Toxic versus Body Press. The Registeel body pressing my Blissey here for 60 immediately informs my next decision. I'm going to have to Terrastalize. Granted, once I do, I have this Registeel completely dead to rights. It's not going to be around to potentially take on Flygon later. It's one of the better fire resists to take on Skeledirge. So let's just rip off the band-aid of this Bootsmon and figure it out from there. A Ghost Terra, and actually hitting my Toxic this time, renders Registeel all but useless. A Lava Plume immediately burning is a non-factor due to Blissey's natural cure. Holy moly, this Pokemon solves so many headaches in so little time. There's a reason I drafted a bunch. Here we just enter a pretty calming 1v1. Blissey's just going to try to end this with as much health as it possibly can. The Registeel isn't wasting time, which, while I respect, I think is deliberately wrong. Your job in this position is to make me waste as much PP as possible. But the Registeel never recovered, so I got a fairly clean kill, with Blissey ending the fight at 79%. Here's Tapu Koko. Do we see boots on the Koko? Yes. Nature's Madness. Blissey is my Koko switch-in, so I really just want to hit a Toxic on this Koko and start healing back up. I'm at 5 soft-boileds already, and I fear I might run out. The Torterra shows a lack of boots as Blissey gets its health back. Showing leftovers is very nice. I might be able to Toxic this later, but I don't really feel like taking an Earthquake. So here comes Celesteela, because its position isn't getting much better. As one of my 3 Pokemon that can be hit by hazards, and with Coles already down, I'm going to have some problems. Getting Tapu Koko Leech Seeded is very nice for me. I don't think it's going to be clicking Thunderbolt, but it ends up hard switching anyway. And I get Grotle back in. Grotle, it does hurt relatively. It's effective to 1 spike here, but I figured the Bronzong's probably just gonna be doing some stuff. I need Grotle healthier anyway, and I managed to catch the Bronzong with a Dragon Tail, forcing it back out. And here comes Torterra. I can't really hit Torterra. My 4th move here is Earthquake, so I kind of just have to run and see what Flygon can do. But I do think it's going to heal, and I predict correctly. Now with Flygon in, it's time to cause some carnage. An immediate Flamethrower is attempting to read Bronzong's use, and the Torterra shows Roar. I'm generally a fan of Dragon Tail on my Grotle/Torterra options. Being able to phase through Taunt is a big deal to me, although there is some argument to Roar because it goes through substitutes, and it means you don't have to worry about missing. Roaring out my Flygon means this is going to get weird. This game's going to get weird fast. Since the Torterra has shown Roar, it means my primary way of beating it, which is block from either Celesteela or Blissey, no longer works. I've got Toxic on only Blissey. Skeledirge is probably the single worst guy to be throwing out here. Celesteela's health is going to drain fast. It's taking 37 on every switch-in between Stealth Rock and the Hot Coals. I've got my maximum hazards down, so I think I'm in a more driving position here, but the Torterra is still going to be a problem, especially because it's faster than Blissey and can potentially Earthquake before I manage to heal. It hasn't shown Earthquake yet, but I'm fairly certain that that's the Torterra's last move. Even if it can't hit Celesteela. It's not like you're hitting Celesteela hard anyway, so you have to pick between Celesteela and Blissey in the team builder if you choose to go with Roar. This is part of the reason I like Dragon Tail, just having a second form of damage. If that was a Dragon Tail into my Flygon, I'd be at a much worse position so far. Might even be dead to hazards next time I come in. Flygon doesn't really have the greatest of defense. But now with Dirge in, I need this healthy. There's still a full health Sneasler and a full health Arcanine here. So it's time to dip out. Maybe start a Roar chain, like I will hate. I try to throw out Mew, and I see Scald, and I get burned, meaning so does Torterra. Okay, so Toxic's off the table now too. Leech Seed I could probably work with, especially with the leftovers cancelled out. I don't have knockoff, so I can't make this burn actually do damage. Skeledirge isn't going to be busting through it. So what's my best option now? Well, I could try to taunt its healing, and then have my Mew go down to Scald. I can't block it due to Roar. I could try to get it into a last mon situation, but that's not going to work. And then it hits me. My Flygon has Giga Drain. I might just have to bludgeon through this with Flygon. But how am I going to switch Flygon in if they're just spamming Roar? I'm going to make them Roar Flygon in. So now we enter a bit of a strange sequence. I completely fat finger this Spike's Call, and I get roared into Celesteela. I don't want to be a Celesteela. I want you to roar me into Flygon. Could you please roar me into Flygon, Torterra? I see the Torterra. I get roared back out. Here comes Blissey. I don't want a Blissey. I want a Flygon. A little bit of health is nice, though. Here comes Bronzong and Seismic Toss. I figured I might as well try to brawl with the Torterra while I'm there, and nailing a toss on the Bronzong is nice. It's shown Toxic and Iron Defense. It's got Body Press as its third, almost certainly. And I figure its fourth could be Rest, but I'm not sure. Toxic might be its move for Skeledirge. And it reveals Protect. I now know it does not have Rest. Its only move to hit this Blissey is Toxic. So I could probably just dip out, but Protect makes this particular situation a little bit awkward, because if it protects, my Seismic Tosses are doing 30 and it heals out with leftovers. So I'm incentivized to soft boil or potentially leave to clear this Toxic and get my timer off. But who do I even go into at that point? If it protects and fails, it can then protect and succeed, so my Flygon Flamethrower doesn't actually kill from this range. Neither does my Skeledirge Torch Song. Going to Grottle is particularly useless. That's not doing a whole lot. Celesteela, all I can do is Leech Seed and then just die to Body Press. So I get rid of Natural Cure. I throw out Mew, mostly due to my own fat fingering, but we profit. I think I just, go right back into Blissey, because the only way it can kill me is with Toxic. Toss into the Protect. I probably could have just healed there, but I thought it would Toxic me first, or at least try. But here comes Sneasler on my half-health Blissey as I get a Seismic Toss off. This will live one more toss. My Blissey's at half. I really do not like that, because Blissey is how I take on Tapu Koko, who I've known is Boots, so it's not getting ravaged by these hazards. I do have a Toxic down on the Koko, but I'd rather not deal with it if I don't have to. So I just toss out Celesteela. I figured Celesteela isn't getting any better, and that they would Throat Chop my Terra Ghost Blissey. But they Dire Claw my Terra Ghost Blissey, meaning I have a Celesteela now that I didn't think I would have. So I just get close combated. And that's totally fine. Celesteal isn't really doing anything anymore anyway. It's trying to block the Bronzong and the Torterra, but that's not going to work. Dire Clawing into Skeledirge is very strange. I don't know why the Sneasler didn't try to go for Throat Chop, but if it didn't chop the Blissey, it probably wouldn't chop the Dirge. Dire Claw might have just been fishing for status. I really have no idea what the Sneasler was doing. It's not Boots. It was probably just an Electric Seed to go with the Tapu Koko. I got no clue. So Skeledirge claims a knockout. It is turn 39. Yeah, we are going on to turn 39 and only 4 Pokemon have gone down. This is the kind of mons I love to play. I love these sorts of long grindy games. Most people don't, and I drink their tears. But here's a 34 health Bronzong, and I figure, okay, one of the guys I'm trying to take on is down. It's just gonna this guy's just gonna protect in my face. If it does, then I'll go to probably Blissey and be totally fine. I do need this healthy for Arcanine, but I don't need it that healthy. I've still got Blissey in the tank. I've got a high health Grottle to Dragon Tail it out. I'll stay in. I'll go for one Torch Song. What could go wrong? The Bronzong doesn't protect at all. Not even the risk-free edition. I'm mildly astounded at this. But figure, okay, why not? Here's Delta Arcanine, no heavy-duty boots, no multi-scale either. I don't even know what on my roster is good to be intimidating. I get Toxicked, and I knock out the Arcanine. Skeledirge has caved 3 knockouts, and I didn't think it would even get this far. But now we're back into Torterra. And I try to Earth Power the Torterra because that's my strongest hit. And I get healed on. And I figure the Skeledirge isn't really doing a whole lot. But what can I do? Go into Grottle? Oh yeah. This thing can't touch Grottle, and it's probably scalding my Dirge. Water Absorb coming in clutch. I can't set more hazards, my Earthquake doesn't do a whole lot, but at least I can threaten a potential Tapu Koko switch. And, you know, PP stall its healing. But part of the problem is that I don't want you to roar me into Skeledirge. I need you to roar me into Flygon again. The game is pretty much over by this point. The moment they roar me into Flygon, I will win. But I do need them to roar me into Flygon. I try for a Dragon Tail, and I get roared right back into Skeledirge. I try to go right back to Grottle, because I'm still out of Grass Knot range. We've seen it only does 55 to my Grottle, so while I'm at 70, I'm totally fine. I get roared into Skeledirge. I figure they're just going to roar me again, so I heal off my Skeledirge. And I'm correct, I do just get roared. I get roared into Blissey. Now is as good a time as any to just heal up my Blissey. Why not? Am I getting roared? Yep. Into who? Into Flygon. Okay. Whew. 50% Flygon, ravaged by these hazards, but Giga Drain does 67. I heal pretty much all my health. I get scalded for basically nothing. No burn. And I Giga Drain once more. The Tapu Koko has not yet revealed Dazzling Gleam. It might have the Gleam, it might not have the Gleam. Frankly, I don't know. Frankly, I do not care. Hard Blissey, no chances. Does have Gleam, does 13. And now it's just a simple Seismic Toss, simple pair of Seismic Tosses for the end game. Get a clean knockout. A 4-0 victory in 53 turns. My apologies if this video took a while because I've just been gushing at my computer for a while. But that is week 1 of the Holon Battle Frontier. Next week, we take on the Sylve with a Meloetta Mime, Landorus Therian Goldango roster. I look forward to catching y'all then, and have a good one.